Our first guests tonight are not bakers, but might know a thing or two about making a cake. Serving up the regional premiere of The Cake, a timely play based on the Colorado Cake Shop controversy, is producing artistic director Chip Walton and actress Emma Messenger. Hello, how are you guys tonight?
Great, thank you.
Thanks for coming down. So let's just jump in, because I've been looking forward to this play for so long now. Chip, why don't you start as producing artistic director and director of the show? Tell us a little bit about what The Cake is.
Well, the cake is, I think that people will just naturally associate it with the Masterpiece Cake case, and it is certainly in part inspired by that, but it's also inspired by the playwright Becca Brunstedter's, her life growing up in North Carolina, and her dad, who was a conservative politician and voted for the Defense of Marriage Act, otherwise known as Amendment 1. And I think it really kind of made her realize that she needed to kind of confront some really fundamental questions about belief and fellowship amongst her family. And then of course what's happened over the past couple of years in this country expands it to a really kind of interesting question about whether that fellowship is even possible anymore in such divisive times.
For sure. And I think that's what I love about this show is, like you said, it's so complex. It's not just a drama, it's not just a comedy, it's not just about a cake controversy. It layers so many themes and topics into this one show. So what is it like for both you guys tackling a show that's so immense, but at the same time only 90 minutes long?
It's been a lot more difficult than I thought it would be, actually, to kind of get a handle on this, to find the right tone, to make it big enough for these wonderful, funny characters, but at the same time, finding that heart and those moments where it really is reflective and deep. So it's about finding that balance, I think.
Exactly. Chip, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think the hardest thing for me is just sort of, Becca is really intentionally making an effort to, I think, challenge audiences like me who tend to be firmly planted on one side of the aisle with a really kind of human portrayal and exploration of the folks on the other side of the aisle. Yeah. So at a time when I think many of us, myself at least, is really pretty committed to activism on behalf of our beliefs, it's a really great and challenging experience to sort of fall in love with characters like Della, who hold beliefs that I find not to be held by myself. So it's an interesting exercise right now for anybody. I think regardless of whether you're on the right or the left, proverbial right or the left, you're going to come to this show and you're going to have some of your assumptions really challenged.
Yeah.
Talk more about Della, the character you play.
Well, she is this very lovable, adorable character, and yet she holds beliefs that are certainly very different from mine and came down on the other side of this case. The difference between Della's situation and the Masterpiece case is that the woman who asks her to make the cake in this case is a personal friend, somebody she loves. And so it is much more difficult to reject somebody for who they are when you have, watched them grow up and felt like they're your own daughter. So it has that level of relationship drama to it.
And let's talk more about, it's a drama, but it's a comedy. It's a dramedy in a sense. And that's a word that maybe people don't hear a lot outside of the theater world. So kind of how would you guys describe the tone of the play? Kind of how would you describe the play in the sense of the genre?
Well, I think it's a comedy. I mean, I think it's a comedy until it's not a comedy. And
it's a comedy for as long as we can make it a comedy.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. I mean, we've been talking about, Norman Lear, and particularly shows like All in the Family, as being good models where you have sort of a real kind of like through line of comedy that then sort of drops into very heartful and meaningful moments. And I think the great thing about that style is they take you by surprise a little bit, right? So you're not, so they sneak up on you, and I think the great thing about the comedic form in dealing with issues that are controversial or complex is it gives you a little bit of distance, right? So you are able to enjoy it, but also find some space to think about the issues in a way that's not kind of, forgive me for lack of a better phrase, but so in your face.
Yeah.
It's a way in.
Yeah. It's a way to get people interested in
Yeah.
loving those characters.
And I think people on both sides of this situation will find a lot in this show. It does a really good job of exploring these complicated issues.
And Emma, I want to talk to you because you've had more of a challenge in this role in the sense that you're just not learning the lines and learning the blocking. You had to learn how to decorate a cake.
I did.
You did. So did you have any prior cake decorating
No,
experience?
no. And I'm still not very good. I'm just going to act like I know what I'm doing.
So in the show, do you actually decorate a cake?
A little bit.
A little bit.
A little bit.
All right. Do you feel more confident now going into it?
Yeah, like maybe this is, something I want to do. No.
My question is, are they real cakes? Do you get to take a cake home every night with you?
Well, some of them are real cake.
The audience gets cake every night.
Yeah.
That's a reason in itself to the audience get cakes every night. I know, like we talked about, it's based around the masterpiece cake controversy, but it's also its own thing. But I do want to talk about, obviously, this show. You guys picked to produce it before the Supreme Court ruled, and now the Supreme Court has ruled against in favor of the cake shop, saying that they had the right to do this. So has that changed how you approach this show or how you thought about anything versus when you picked the show?
Well, and now Jack Phillips has sued
again,
so there's
It goes
the suit
on,
continues,
I don't think it was so much the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court decision was so narrow and didn't really, decide anything forever. But for me, this is a character that my job as an actor is to love this woman and to find out what she's thinking so that I can represent her point of view, which is very difficult for me because I'm completely on the other side of the issue. So I really had to think, how would I feel if I was asked to do, for example, a voiceover for a political campaign that I disagreed with, something where I was lending my talent or my artistry to something I didn't believe in. And that was kind of my in to this woman. Okay. But she struggles. Yeah. She really does. Yeah.
Chip, anything you want to add with that?
Well, no, I mean, I think, I'm not sure that the Supreme Court case, I think whatever the outcome would have been wouldn't have changed the relevance and the importance of this play. Because I think what it's really getting at is something that's much deeper and much more problematic. I don't want to say more problematic, but, the fact that right now, a recent Pew study showed that people's political identification is more profound in terms of who they socialize with, who they marry, who they choose to work for and with, than race or gender or religion or anything. And so right now I think we're at a really problematic moment where I don't think people are talking. And Becca, bless her heart, still has this wonderful hope that I think we need more of, that, hey, maybe if we just sat down and had a piece of cake together, we could put our differences aside. I don't know. I don't know whether I think that's possible or not, but I think it's a really great, interesting question to entertain.
I love it. The last question, because we're running out of time. Why should people come see the cake at Curious Theater Company?
Because I'm topless. With a lot of buttercream.
Well, there it is. That's the whole reason.
I don't think I can top that.
I'm not going to ask you to give a preview right now. They'll
Thank
have
you,
to buy
Avery.
a ticket.
Absolutely.
The cake opens at Curious Theater Company September 1st and runs until October 13th. Tickets start at $30 with $10 rush tickets an hour before the performance. So be sure to get your tickets now. And thank you both so much for coming on the
Thank you
show
for
today.
having us.